Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Had a request come in after some of the heavier readings that I did this week. The Beatles. They recently, last year I think, finished up a song called Now and Then. The history is kind of interesting. John Lennon had penned and songed the first part of it, or had the verses of it done in 1978. And before he was murdered. And I guess in the mid-90s, the Beatles had revisited some songs of John Lennon's. Yoko Ono had given him tapes. And two of those songs they went ahead and made singles out of, and I believe it got released on an anthology. But Now and Then was not released. And with George Harrison saying that he didn't, the song was unworkable. But what he meant by that was there was a hissing noise on it, or there was a 60 hertz noise on it that couldn't be gotten rid of with the technology they had with that recording. But later on, I think from what I was reading, a bootleg copy came available that didn't have that 60 hertz noise on it. And I think eventually they got that copy. They had vocals of John's, and they could overdub guitar work that George Harrison had done when they had done a day or an afternoon in the studio trying to work with Now and Then. And basically using technology and vocals of John Lennon's, as well as George Harrison's guitar work. Paul McCartney fleshed out some lyrics on there to seal it all up, and then they released Now and Then as a single, I believe in 2023. What was interesting was on the other side of the single was Love Me Do. So it was the very, very first single and their very last single. And that song, and that Now and Then went to number 1 in the UK. The question that came in was, what, at that time, George and John, what do they think of the song, or what message do they want to convey to us with that? It's kind of like a Sterling thing. Let's look at this song. We can start off with Paul and Ringo, and then work to John and George. Entertainment purposes only. Okay, so let's talk with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. What inspired them to complete this single Now and Then after it had sat for so long? They wanted to do. It was a new journey, but I think I look at this as like it's a new journey, but bringing it full circle, because the Fool is the beginning of the journey, and it's also the end and the beginning of a new journey. So, it kind of like how they had Love Me Do on one side, and this is their last single. It was it was an opportunity. I think it was an opportunity for them to bring that to the fans, and probably as a tribute to John and to George. Crossed with the King of Swords. I think the reality is they're not getting any younger. It was kind of like if we don't do it now, we've got the technology to do it now. We can do this. If we don't do it now, we may never have another opportunity to do it again. Ringo and Paul are not getting any younger. So the reality is, if we're going to do it, we better do it, because we won't have any other chances. Underneath it all, it was out of the love they have for each other and their late bandmates. I would assume the fans as well, but I think this was more the tribute to John and George, and again, bringing everything full circle. And just, reuniting that Beatles that one last time. Yes, the fans are the ones who benefit from all that. And that's good. In the past, we have the King of Cups. George really didn't want to do the song, but his wife, when the single came out, she had a press conference, and she was saying that if George were alive today with the technology that was available, and he was hearing how this was coming on, he would have been totally on board with the project. There were some concerns that George wouldn't like it. And, the band members want to say got into an argument, but I believe the quote was, "We're a democracy, and if we can't be unanimous on it, we're just not going to do it." So things didn't get done because, in this case, I think it's because George just didn't feel like, with the noise and the technology they had, they could do John Lennon's work justice. They couldn't do the work justice, so don't bother. If you can't do it justice, don't do it at all. So that was pretty much okay. I was about to say that's the end of the project. This is the current thing. This is the last thing the Beatles are going to put out. They're not going to go the route of using AI to recreate John Lennon's voice and then just start writing singles and having John Lennon's artificial voice sing it with George Harrison's artificial guitar playing on it and Paul and Ringo filling in. That's not going to happen. This is it. This is what you get. Last single, last thing released by the Beatles. By the way, it was also set a record for the longest time between their first number one and their last number one, which is like 45 years or something like that. Good on them. Or maybe the longest time it took to write it, but incredible group. Overarching energy is the Ace of Wands. When they're ready, they understood this would be the last thing they were going to do. And when they decided to do it, they took the bull by the horns and did it. Went out and did it. They had the technology, they had the wealth, and they had the desire to do it, so they got it done. It was well received throughout the world. Beatles fans are still around, and they are eager for that material. Notice there's no coins on this reading at all. They did not do it for money. That doesn't mean it didn't make money, but they didn't do it for money. They did it for love and honor. And the outcome is the Seven of Swords. It's like they snuck one in there. This song, by all accounts, should have died with John Lennon back in the late 70s. But they managed to sneak one more Beatles song in there before it was the last one. They managed to sneak it in there and got it in. Again, good job on them. And again, it was as a tribute to their late bandmates, the families of their late bandmates, and it's a gift to the fans. But I don't doubt for a second that the fans came third on that one. That was for John and George. That was for the families of John and George. And oh yeah, the fans too. But that wasn't their primary motivation. Honestly, I'd have to look it up real quick here, but I believe I believe Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney are worth several $100 million US each. So, what's $10 million is a lot of money. Think $1 million or $10 million, whatever they might make off the single. That's a lot of money. But when your net worth is like $300 million, is $290 million even noticeable? Or 310, is it even noticeable? They have everything they want. What's more money is just accumulation. It's just stuff at that point. I know, hard for us to relate, huh? First world problems. Okay, now let's turn our attention to George Harrison and John Lennon. What did George Harrison and John Lennon think of the efforts of Paul and Ringo with the song? Mostly John Lennon. This is going to be mostly John. George really couldn't participate in this one, but mostly John. Ace of Swords. I think he was really happy with it. It was kind of that sort of truth and like right on, good idea, go for it. I think he probably encouraged them from the other side to do this, knowing it was going to be, this is it. John Lennon had 3 songs that could be turned into singles. 2 of them got done in the mid-90s. The last one just got done. This is it. No, take up the mantle. This is it. The Beatles aren't doing anything new. That was it for it. Yeah, and then, John sitting over watching the whole process. Kind of looks like John Lennon too. Just sitting there watching the whole process from the other side and guiding him. In the Passage Judgment, I'm drawn to more the musical nature and the three people in the foreground here. When John died, there were rumors the Beatles were going to get back together again, and steps were being taken for a reuniting of the Beatles. Obviously, that did not happen when John passed. But the three band members did get together to release a couple singles off of John's work. But I think he also felt like they exercised good judgment in waiting on that last single. Because it wasn't time, judgment. It wasn't time for that single to come out yet. And it's ironic in this day and age with all this anger and hatred that's going on in the world, we get another Beatles song. Who were all about peace and harmony and bringing people together. Current situation is the Empress. I think everything is complete. I think when he looks at what was done with the song, he feels like they filled in everything nicely. Everything got taken care of. From the John's vocals to George's guitar work to Paul adding additional lyrics or rewriting verses to have it flow properly. It was done. The vibe I get is it was done in a very Beatles fashion. Even with two of the members not there physically, it was still done in a Beatles manner, and it was a completed project just like the Beatles would have done. I think he's very happy that it got done, and I think he's very pleased with the impact it had on the people who purchased or downloaded that track. He's very, very happy for them. The outcome is the start. The Beatles are talked about one more time. It's like their last hurrah. They're not their fading star, but it's like they're still stars. From the early 60s to 2020, spanning over 60 years of being rock stars and having, another song in the tank to share with their audience. And on to new things. Just like Paul and Ringo had. They completed the cycle. All three singles are out. We're done. You don't need to do any more. You can go do other things. And again, Paul and Ringo aren't getting any younger, so enjoy them while you've got them, because Lord knows how long we get them for. That was a really cool reading, and thank you for the person who suggested that to me. I do appreciate it. It definitely different than what I normally read on, and a lot lighter, and I kind of needed that. Okay, so anyways, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for doing everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so my videos make it out to a newer, wider audience. And to anybody new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.